Throughout my childhood, I was told by my teachers and parents, and I believed that I was not creative because I was useless at art. And although I learned how to play the piano, I was told to give up after grade 1 because I was tone deaf. It was only after I became an entrepreneur that I learned that the most important skill for anyone in business is creativity, and I discovered that I was actually extremely creative. This week, Lucy Noble, the artistic director at the Royal Albert Hall, called for creative arts to be made compulsory at GCSE level to stop a decline before it's too late. Every student, she says, should do at least one creative subject until they're 16. She is absolutely right. Creativity is needed in every walk of life, not least in business, where we rely on the creativity of entrepreneurs to drive job creation. So let's make this happen. If we don't, we are wasting a huge opportunity.
Karen, what Lucy Noble said at first glance makes absolute sense, but if you're a young man or a young woman and you're absolutely committed to be an engineer, or your mum and dad, or your mum or dad have been a doctor or a surgeon, and you just want to be medicine, your whole life revolves around medicine, why would you make a young man or woman endure 2 or 3 years of learning history or whatever it might be? Why would you necessarily, if that is what they want to do?
I actually can't believe I'm hearing this.
Well, that's why they bring me in.
Wow.
That's what they do, because all you're going to do, that child just wants to be a doctor. Let him or her be a doctor.
Okay. Such an impoverished attitude towards education.
14, 15.
Please, before I respond, I'd love to
That
get...
is such an impoverished attitude towards education. Education is not just about churning out the future job, professional, whatever skill you need to do your work. It's about creating rounded people who can contribute to this society, who can engage, who are interested. We have such a rich cultural life. Yeah, but why should you stop children exploring?
Because they don't want to.
Talents they might not know they have.
She doesn't want to do
history. The point of an education system is not to just give you a specific skill set. It is to broaden your understanding, to give you the opportunity to find things you might not know you had. And, you know, Karen's absolutely right. I was thinking about this in terms of the creative industry. The creative sector is worth 92 billion to our economy, the fastest growing sector. It's grown 7 times the rate of other sectors. But actually, it's not just about being given the opportunity to work in the creative sector. It's about if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a banker, if you want to be a surgeon.
But I'm talking about a kid who wants to be an engineer.
It's crucial, and it comes
from
multidisciplinary. You know, Nick, what you're saying is grounded in the Edwardian era. We now understand that children learn through multidisciplinary channels.
It's going well, isn't it? Look how well we're doing nationally, internationally.
Things from science can trigger artistic ideas. Things from music can enhance science. And that is, I mean, welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah, well, I actually have a few points to this, if I may. I think, first of all, what 14-year-old really knows what they want to do at that age? Point 1. Point 2, I think the nature of the way our economy is moving, I agree with Afa, by the way, is it's becoming multidisciplinary. So it's worthwhile having this broad toolkit so that we can actually contribute to the economy. You have various roles. You're not just a radio host. You're on TV. You have, I imagine, columns that you write. You're a writer. So we do various things.
I'm available for pub quizzes and any other hostings, corporate events.
Last thing I'll say is actually, I think where your scenario, I can paint an opposite scenario as well. So especially within minority ethnic communities, but South Asian communities I know intimately well, our parents only ever encouraged us to be blooming engineers, doctors.
Oh my God! In India, you know, the Indian Institute.
Not again. You've sold enough beer on this episode, for God's sake.
In Indian Institute of Technology, which are basically engineering colleges, 1.5 million students apply every year, school leavers. 130,000 make it to the first cut, and 10,000 get a place. That's more difficult than Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard multiplied by 10 times.
I remember explicitly, I used to design patterns in the back of people's hair when I was about 13, 14 with the clippers, and I was very artistic. I did an art GCSE. It's the only A I got for my GCSEs because I wasn't into my studies, right?
Yeah, that'd be something. Yeah, I do.
The reason I say this is because I remember once my parents saying to me as a young me, "What did you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to continue doing these patterns in people's hair," and they were horrified.
You had to be a dentist.
I had to be for me it was a lawyer.
A lawyer,
right? And then what I did is when I did my GCSE at 16, I enrolled in graphic design at Barking College, but pulled out of that to do A-levels because, you know, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. In the end, at university, so desperate was I to do the arts. Well, I mean, law is related, but I added a language to my law degree and it was Arabic,
right.
Because I wanted to pursue the arts and humanities. And I think so. There is an opposite scenario to the one you've painted, and that's kids get pushed in the wrong direction.
It's not either or. I really believe that STEM subjects, again, we are encouraging our students in this country to go for science, technology, engineering and maths. We need to. But they should also study art subjects. It's a combination of two that gives us that power.
Just before, I know Cara hasn't come in yet, but just to hear, because we've heard that this was triggered by Lucy Noble, the artistic director at the Royal Albert Hall, and this is what she actually said. She said austerity measures and the continuing tendency for schools to focus on more academic subjects risk having a negative and irreversible long-term impact on the arts field, for which Britain is respected all over the world. We are calling for at least one creative arts subject to be made compulsory for all pupils taking GCSE, and for the proper investment in our future musicians, actors and artists before it is too late to reverse this most serious of declines. And can I just say an idea, which isn't mine, from a charity, this is easy to do. You just make Ofsted remove outstanding status from any school that doesn't thrive in the creative arts sectors, and then suddenly schools will take this subject seriously, because at the moment there's no incentive for them to do so.
Okay. Carol. I'm kind of a bit on the fence with it. It was Picasso said all children are artists, and the problem is keeping them artists as they grow up. But the reality is our system, you can't measure creativity in our system because it doesn't actually cater for it, you know, because we're driven, we have a target-driven schools league system that doesn't actually cater for it. And I think the shame of all this is that the funding squeeze means that the practice and the study of art is getting dropped off the curriculum in state schools, not, however, in the private schools. And this is what leads what leads to the fallacy that culture and art belong to the elites. And it is a shame that they are missing out there. But I also agree with Nick, because the reality for many families, whether you agree with this or not, Afwe, is that some kids have to do subjects and go in a certain route and do a job that is going to earn them money. They don't actually have a choice in that. And
Carol,
I think that's...
but there's a problem that there's been a 26% decline in GCSE entries for art subjects since 2014.
And in teachers who do the arts.
And the future of this country's competitiveness, if you look ahead of our competitiveness, when we're competing globally, it's the power to have that research and innovation, which is all about creativity. And at the moment, we do brilliantly. We 1% of the world's population, we produce 16% of the highest research papers in the world. But we need to have that creativity embedded from a young age in our school to give us that competitive edge in the global economy.
All the things that we're not supposedly doing in schools, we are still the world's third largest cultural exporter after China and America. So even with it not being in schools the way you wanted to be, we're still doing pretty good.
It's only in the last 10 years that it's declined so seriously, that music and arts decline, and we will see that in 10 years' time, because it takes time for these children to come through. And Carol, I really would just want to pick up on the idea that if you need to earn a living, you can't go into the creative sector. I've just said it's the fastest growing part of the economy.
Guaranteed.
But I agree that this is definitely a class issue. Private people, our MPs who are implementing these measures can afford to give their children piano lessons and to send them to schools that do arts. And it's opening a bigger class divide in access to these areas.
On the note of earning a living, can I just, can we have a listen to this? This is a journalist who's commenting on the way our economy is going to evolve, actually.
I think in the future, it's one of the few skills that humans really have. Creativity is something that we can do that AI can never do. Plus the fact that these are subjects that give you pleasure throughout your life. The
key point there is her point that she makes about AI, because actually, I think looking at that, she's correct that if AI is going to replace maths and engineering, all these other skill sets, creativity is the only one it cannot
Majid,
replace.
There's a book that I endorsed, written by a Stanford graduate who invests in Silicon Valley, and it's called The Fuzzy and the Techie, and its whole premise is it's got to be a combination of the two that's going to be the most effective.
I'm going to have to call school out or ring the bell on this class in just a moment after I've read this, but I think I speak for the pledging team here and all pledgers, Karan. If we had a whip round, would you play Roll Out the Barrel on the piano? Because I know we'd all like to hear you play that.
As long as I have a bottle of beer there.
All righty. The Department of Education says the following: we want all pupils to have the opportunity to study the arts. That is why music and art and design are compulsory in the national curriculum up to the age of 14. The EBAC, or English Baccalaureate, was designed to be studied as part of a broad and balanced curriculum. It allows pupils time to continue to study additional subjects like the arts. We are also putting more money into arts education programmes. And you are watching The Pledge on Sky News.